Okay, so it's touching individual stars. It's going through this 1 degree, hits 10 degrees, which is a change of a pentan from Taurus to Gemini. You see the Taurus to Gemini here. It stays in the hexagram influence wooing through my whole life. That was the Neptune, that was the 3 marriages. Ta-da! And the repercussions thereof. But when it changed, yeah, I finished the Celestial Harp. I did the first showing of it. I built a couple of domes on a property in Quebec, and I got my first computer. This was all as it went into the Gemini pentan. And the one was the completion of the building the harp. I was showing it and having to tune it and building the domes. And the first computers, they were physical but cerebral things. Remember, the first computer was an Apple II, I think it was, came in pieces. I had to buy it. It cost, I think, close to $3,000. And I bought it in pieces, and to put it together, have a computer. My goodness, guess $3,000 for 48K. 48K, no megabytes, no kilobytes, nothing. 48K, period. So they seemed impressive at the time, trying to get things done and trying to work out astrology program and things, but it was things evolved very much more rapidly than that. So okay, that's my Neptune. And we got Pluto, and Pluto is much smaller than the Earth. I took these pictures, and they were just not big enough pixels to hold the image very well. But you can still see the relative sizes. This is a more recent picture of Pluto. I mean, when I started in the 70s and 80s, we didn't know the equinoxes and solstices. We didn't know a lot of things about Pluto. We had its position, but we didn't know a lot about it. Now we got pictures of the surface, and we know so much more about it. So Pluto, okay, so Pluto represents the power of truth and consequences. What's real, what's not? Is there a God, isn't there a God? What's real? It's like the auditor in it's the so what in your chart. Like, here's this is real, deal with it. Pluto's this reality check. So as we're watching, how does the reality check shift? It's not your whole chart, it's the reality check that's shifting. And it's just shifting these little bits in my life. We'll just, again, my Pluto forward and retrograde just stays within the degree. Really small amount of movement. When we look at it closely, you can see because it goes retrograde, comes back, it's really slowing at its slowest time and stays in that same degree a long time. Everybody's different. This is so unique to each person. So we got our schedule. It went retrograde in 1978. So by then I'd already traveled, left home, traveled. So by then I'm already 32. I'll get past my Saturn return. And so, but like from 72, from 72 all the way up to 84, 12 years, it's within the same minute of the degree. So from 66 to, let's say, yeah, so 66 to 84, it's within the same 2 minutes of degree. It's just small. It's really, in that time period, it will go, it's in the it's in the I Ching hexagram, let's see, 13 degrees, that's conflict. It's in 43, breakthrough resoluteness, and the well, how to tap the well, or the depth of things. And then it stays in those 3 hexagrams, and they stay the same, but just the line of the well changes. And that would be the symbolism that I would see change over that time period, but then, and then it goes back. So, right in here, why? Oh yeah, it backs up. Now, because it's backing up, it will back up and conjunct itself. It conjuncts its own place. So Pluto moved forward and then it retrograded back and got back to its own place at birth. So it went forward in its life, things backed up, and in 2003, Pluto came back to its exact point in my chart where it was born. From that point, it started going back into, you see, karmic things. It started being pushed into maybe things from another lifetime. It's just going back before where it was when I was born. Okay, now you could say before I was born into my other life, or you could take it that there were things perhaps going on in my mother's life in the last days of pregnancy. So it just depends how well you're trying to connect to the history, but certainly this fear element, my dad had passed away, my mom was starting to go, and I had just moved out to the country, and I was trying to be on my own, but by being in the country, I lost my real economic support of my client base in the city. And I was in this process, I switched from really mailing lists and personal contacts with people to more the email and doing things through computerized stuff. Okay, went ahead, and then I've marked it here where it changed to 13 degrees Leo. So finally, it moved out of the degree it was, let's see, it moved out of the degree I was born in. Yeah, went up to 1322 and backed up to 13 degrees even 2016. So that's 46. That's 60 years. More than 60, 46. 650. 60 years. Yep. No, something wrong with that. Something wrong with my heading counting this. 4654. It's not, yeah, so that's about 66. That's about 60. 68 years before it got back to its own place. Since then, only in the last 5 years, it's been going back before my lifetime, but moving away from its individual position. So I have Pluto pretty exactly square to Mercury. It was powerful thinking. It gets me into these nerdy things and following all these details and understanding the systems and astrology. It's been good for research. It battles with my heart all the time because it's strong mental more than heart, but it is in Leo. So anyways, moved along, and it goes, it's in, it stays in the same hexagram of conflict. It changes to the hexagram of possession and great measure, great light, great insight, great light. And inside of that, preponderant, I think, 1 second. It's called the cauldron. Inside of that goes into the cauldron. So it's interesting. Well, it went into the cauldron when it went into this line, these lines during this time period from April 18 to that was June 18 that I found out I was diabetic, and I had to really adjust my diet and adjust what I was eating, the cauldron, what's cooking. Anyway, so little things. This is Pluto, and it's just small change, but a small shift. So to talk about it is just talking, but they do represent significant phases in this undertones of dealing with fear, facing truth, what's real. These were big issues. I had just had to move in my 70s and let go of the place I was in for 15 years. So there's a lot of big changes in that time. So in my chart, when I was born, when Mercury went retrograde, I had run a bookstore and I sold it to a guy who ripped me off, and I had to do legal actions against him. At the same time, a relationship I had ended. So that was 78. That's when it went retrograde. It was really dark, powerful struggles. And I had invited a friend from the States to come up and visit. And he came up and stayed with me, and then he became envious that I had a really good student working with me and really working deeply with me. And he ended up kind of impressing her, introducing her, taking away. So I had to go on my own again. That was part of this retrograde point of the Pluto. When in 2003, when it got back to its own place, my mother's marriage ended, and she was living in Hungary, and she had to return from Hungary. She'd been married to a guy 35 years. At 70, she went to Hungary to live with him in Hungary. She always wanted to live in Europe. Then when she hit 80, when she hit 80, he started doing the cleaning lady. Mom was 80, he was 70, the cleaning lady was 50. That's how, anyways. But she called me and says, damn, that was my best cleaning lady. You know, but she was heartbroken, changed, left her world, came to Toronto and stayed with me. She stayed with my brother, and she stayed with me. And she got about another year that she lived before she died. And that was on the one as the Pluto was back conjuncting its Pluto, conjuncting itself. And then it just moves back, doesn't make any further as it moves away from that intensity. So each time there was a relationship ending, something seemed wrong for me, and then for my mom, and something seemed totally wrong for her at that time, both under that Pluto, old karmic consequences. Okay, so now that's a long detail, blah, blah, about what, I mean, when you look at your history and you're going through this, you go through different layers of it, you can spend a lot more time going into this and going further. And that's the main process. Most people don't realize you can go this far this deeply into a horoscope. They can go this far and still find things out. And I'm grateful for the classes because every time I teach, go through a whole set of classes, I get the chance to go over these details, not to go over these things again. And they become more and more valid, more and more real. If you're just seeing it for the first time, you're just starting wondering across it, but it's a valid level of astrology. It's a profoundly deep level of astrology and affects intuitive and inner perceptions. And those inner perceptions will spill out into outer world scenarios in various ways. Okay, so here's chart 2. Okay, I have the charts, but I didn't make the drawings, make the little tiny drawings of how much it moves, but I do have the, what's 1 second, here. I have the printouts for each one, and we're just going to take them. Sample 2, where are we here? It should be here. Sample 2, okay, we'll pick up Uranus first. Here, I'll make it even a little bit bigger so I can see it a bit more. So this is sample 2's chart. This is July 5th, 69. And this is someone who has Pluto ascendants at 19 Virgo, 1939, and Pluto is at 22 degrees Virgo. In fact, it's at 2242 Virgo. So you get 3 degrees away. So we're going to see how it goes. Now, here's the Pluto. It's moving along. That's what we're looking at Uranus here. We'll get to Pluto. Uranus is in Libra, 0 degrees Libra, just the beginning of Libra, 3 degrees away from Jupiter. So, and it's going direct, so it's going through. We're just following it through. It changes degree in 91, goes to 1 degree of Libra, 91. By quintil to Saturn, goes along. It comes up with sextiles Mars in 2008. It's not a bad aspect. It sextiles Mars, changes degree into 2 degrees in 2012. Uranus can go 5 or 6 degrees in 90 days if it's moving fast. And it comes and it opposes the moon in 2019. On August 23rd, 2019. That's now. No, because it's there, but it's there for a period of time. So this is a big shakeup of the past, the home, family disruptions, and big changes. So this is her Uranus, the shock, the changes. Well, first of all, okay, so here we go. Sorry, I'm just going to move this over, make the chart a bit smaller. It's in the hexagram called retreat. It's the idea of the sage going on a mountain and being alone. Within that is the hexagram of inner truth. And within that is hexagram, it's just recently changed in the hexagram. It's gone through breakthrough of this into the hexagram of the creative independence, creative strength. Now it's interesting because in this period,